Hey everyone, this is Jack and Clayton, and this video is 5 types of men that you want to avoid at all costs. So the purpose of this video is to help you be discerning with your time and to know when not to invest in getting to know a guy, because in a way these are like 5 red flags, right? They're 5 things that you could spot super early on in getting to know a guy. And if you were continuing to invest time in him, we would kind of want to know, why are you doing that? Why are you not taking a stand for yourself, and why are you not valuing yourself in the dating process?
So we're going to bring up 5 common scenarios. These are ones that we have both personally encountered in our coaching clients with gals that we've been working with. And so if you can find yourself relating to any of these, we're not necessarily saying that this is true all the time, 100%. There's always going to be some exceptions, but we do want you to slow down, take inventory of what's really happening, and make sure that you're actually in contact with reality and have the proper expectations set.
Yes, absolutely. So why don't we get into it?
Yeah.
Do you want to open up the first one?
So the first one is the man who is either married or in a relationship. Now this one might seem obvious if you have not encountered it, but it can be really confusing to be in that relationship with somebody when, for instance, there's real feelings that are being passed back and forth.
Yeah.
When you can feel the guy's heart, when he's actually emotionally open and expressive, and maybe even talking about leaving his wife or his partner to be with you.
Yep.
It can be really hard to turn that down, especially if you feel the realness of it. However, it's definitely one that you want to avoid, because more times than not, it's going to lead to heartbreak. And
I've seen that a lot in the coaching people, coaching women, that being the third wheel, it's pretty rare that you become the main wheel. Yeah. And even if it were true that this guy does want to be in a relationship with you and he is thinking of leaving his partner or wife, let that happen, right? Take a step back, actually let him clean up the dynamic, and then you guys can actually be together for real and see what's there. Right. Because there are certain things I don't think you can ever see when you are that third wheel.
Totally. And another component too is if that he's moving from one relationship right to the next, leaving somebody for you, there may be this sneaking suspicion inside you when you are in a relationship with him that he might do the same thing.
Right.
And that you're going to be on the receiving end of this time, and it's going to be some other woman that he's falling in love with. So
that's great, because that kind of brings us nicely to number 2.
Yeah, what's number 2?
Well, number 2 is a guy who's on the rebound. Right? So a guy who is either still involved or very recently involved with someone else. And, I've been there. I've been that guy. It's very hard to clearly see that you're actually in a rebound. Yeah. You almost need to go through the process of a rebound, and then you notice like, oh, I thought I was really into that person, but actually it was a rebound feeling. Like when you're experiencing loss or grief, or kind of like the identity challenge that happens with a relationship ending, you often want consolation and solace and comfort and support. And so it's very natural to reach out to someone new in order to get that need met. That's a very different thing than I'm available for a long-term relationship with you, even if it brings up strong feelings.
Totally. And this is the part that makes it so seductive, is the strong feelings that you're talking about. Because what you might experience for a guy who is getting right out of a relationship is that there's a lot of transference that happens, where a lot of the emotional depth and perhaps his heart being cracked open by the ending of the last relationship suddenly gets turned towards you. Right. And what you might experience with him is feelings of love and deep authenticity and honesty and emotional expression like you haven't felt with men before. So it makes it really difficult to draw boundaries and say no to it, because you've got a guy who's got a bleeding heart right there. Yeah. However, more times than not, it's not actually about you. Yeah. Right? It's about the period of life that he's in right now, given the breakup. And if you're not able to distinguish that, what'll end up happening is you most likely will get in the way of his healing process. And at some point, him or you are going to see that you guys got into things too quickly, and it's going to compromise the longevity of the relationship. Yeah. It's like, if you want to be his partner, don't be his healer. Right? Better to give him some space and trust that if there's actually something there, it will still be there. Like, believe me, if you're going to be in a long-term relationship, the kind of commitment that needs, the kind of energy for people to come back together again and again, if that's actually there, then it will be there. And if it's not, it kind of isn't. Wow. Great. I love that. Don't be his healer if you want to be in a relationship with him. Yeah. So let's crack open number 3, because this is kind of fun, this one. But it actually, again, just like getting in a relationship with a married guy, happens more than you probably realize.
getting in a relationship with this type of guy also probably happens more than you realize. So the third type of guy that we're talking about is someone who's living with his parents. You know, maybe he's living in mom's basement. And you know, there's going to be a few variations on this, but it's basically a proxy for a guy who hasn't really got his stuff together, right?
Yeah.
Or how we say, got his shit together.
Yeah.
And he may be a nice guy, he may be a heart open guy, he may be a really great guy in lots of ways, but there's kind of like, he hasn't slayed his own dragon.
Ooh.
Right?
Yeah.
There's something that he's actually got to go and solve for himself, like put himself into the world, make some money, get his career going.
Yeah.
And the danger here is that you try and do that for him, right? That you try and you're like, oh, but he's a great guy, let me help him, let me support him. And of course you want to love and support anyone you're in a relationship with, but you can't slay his dragon. You can't take that opportunity from him. And it probably means, therefore, he's not that available for a real relationship, like a partnership relationship. He may be available for what we call companionship, right? He may want to hang out with you. He may be available for lovership. He may have a really romantic thing with you, but he's not really available. And that's the key distinction here.
Yeah. Another way of saying this too is that he may be still in boyhood mentality and needing some type of initiation or just the hard knocks of life there to usher him into a more adult man mentality.
But wait, don't worry, I can be your mother.
Ah, right, yeah, and raise him to be a man.
Right.
Yeah, and then you don't actually have a partnership at that point. What you end up having is a mentor-mentee relationship.
Yep,
which
super common.
Yep, which is going to be, there's going to be an inequality, there's going to be a different power dynamic, and ultimately what ends up happening is as this man starts to try to come into his own in the relationship, is there's going to be some type of disruption or upset that happens within your dynamic with him that throws things off kilter, because it's going to be different than how the relationship started.
Yeah.
Now, some people and some couples can survive that, but what we're saying here is you're signing up for a pretty messy situation.
Totally. Yeah, rather than have to reconstellate the relationship around a new dynamic, better just not to be in the previous dynamic.
Yeah.
Right? If you notice that you're mothering someone, and that's the principal orientation that you have to them, I think let that guy go and let him go and stand on his own 2 feet. And if there's something that wants to happen later, life will bring it back around.
So one that we're going to talk about the fourth one now, and this one almost dovetails nicely out of this one, which is the guy who's the broken bird, right? So there may be some men that are living with their parents that are broken birds, but we're talking about in a more general sense, the broken bird guy. So this might be a man who is depressed. This might be a man who is down on his luck. He's really in debt. He's been through some really, really hard times. And it's not necessarily that he's been through the hard times that's the problem, but it's how he's holding those hard times and how perhaps he's emotionally and mentally still stuck in those hard times.
Right.
What often happens in this dynamic as a woman is you start to play the role of a savior.
Right.
Right? So he's playing the role of the broken one that needs healing. And see, again, how seductive is that, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes these roles, what they give us is a sense of purpose when we're getting into the relationship. We're like,
totally.
Wow, I know how to love you. I actually have a clear path on how to love you. I can save you. I can be there for you. I can help you get back on your feet. And because of that, maybe there can be some type of bond that forms between us.
Probably like a really strong bond, actually, because those roles are really energizing.
Yes.
Yeah, there's kind of like a general point here, which is to say, don't date a guy's potential, right? Date who's in front of you. Like if you've got to look into the future in order to find an acceptable place for why you're dating, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Right? So again, if you wouldn't be with this guy as he is today ongoingly, and of course we all want to grow. Yeah. Like I'm not saying that, but just you've got to be sober about what is in front of you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's to understand what is the role that you're in right now, what is that dynamic, and if it doesn't change, and it's going to take a lot to change, it might not be worth it. It might not be worth your time. And again, we want you to make sure that you're putting proper boundaries around your life, protecting yourself in the way that you need to, so you can find a high quality partner who's your equal, rather than somebody where you're having to play the healer.
Yeah, totally. Not a fixer-upper.
Yeah.
So let's get into number 5.
Let's do it.
Right, because this is a different type of energy. Number 5 is what we're calling liar would be the strong version of it, or
the spin artist.
Spin artist is the kind of perhaps the softer version of it. So this is a guy who doesn't quite tell you the truth. This is a guy who, maybe he overtly lies early in the relationship, and
makes an excuse for it, possibly.
Right.
Yeah.
That would be a big flag. Or maybe he's more of a white liar, right? Like he's lying by omission. He's not really giving you the full truth. Or anytime you try and pin him down or make him accountable for something, there's always like a reason.
Yeah.
There's always an excuse. There's always a mitigating factor. And there's a kind of slipperiness to the energy,
Yes.
right? There's a bit of trickster or manipulation where you don't get a straight answer to a straight question. A guy who's not really in his masculine integrity would be another way of saying that.
Yeah.
You can't really trust his direction and decision.
Yeah. Another example of this too, to land this one, is it could be a man where when you're bringing perhaps problems or issues or feelings to the table, different needs that you might have, there's a way that he spins it back on you, so it feels like, okay, wait, maybe you're being too sensitive. Maybe you're being too needy.
Right.
So it's a way of almost where he's not really listening or taking responsibility or meeting you, but rather he's putting it back on you and having it be some project that you've got to work on, and it's not about him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. So there are 5 types that you want to avoid. And again, the reason you want to avoid them is so that you can get what you want from your dating life. You can stand in your truth, your power, and your discernment to find a guy that who's actually available and that wants what you want from a relationship. Why not start from there? There's already enough barriers for most of us in relationship, so why not give yourself the best opportunity off the bat?
Yeah, it's great when you have the ripe, fertile soil in which to plant something, rather than trying to plant seeds in like the desert.
I was going to say the barren desert, yeah.
And we want to talk about it a little bit, just a quick webinar that we've got going on. It's called The 3 Keys to Attracting a High Quality Man. So if you found anything that we talked about in this video fascinating, if you are intrigued and you're wanting more, you're wanting to learn how you can be the type of woman that attracts and keeps a high quality man into her life, go ahead and click the button below this video. It's a link actually that'll allow you to register for the webinar. It's 90 minutes of some of the best content that we've put together in the last year.
Yeah, we've had amazing feedback.
And we've got people that have attended it 3 times practically, right? Because it's so rich in content and it's like a course in itself, and we're giving it to you completely free. So click the link below this video, sign up for a time that works for you, and we'll see you on there.
See you there.